Again, my name is Melody O'Neill. I'm the Associate Admission Director. Been at Landmark a long time. It's my 25th year, so I've worn a number of hats while I've been here, but I've been in the admission office for quite some time now, and love meeting with the students and learning all about them and understanding their profiles, and if figuring out if Landmark's going to be a good fit to support them well. So I'm excited to talk to you about who we are, what we do, and our student profile and programs here at Landmark tonight. And I did want to also just mention to everybody that's joining us this evening that we are very fortunate to be opening this year for our 2021 school year full. We are at capacity right now. So what we are doing with, families that are joining us for these visits and inquiring and wanting to get more information about our school and our program is looking to collect application materials and process those for our 21-22 school year. So we encourage families to work on those, getting us those materials early. Usually at the close of first marking period, so usually around November is a great time to start, getting us again all those application materials, collecting teacher references, school reports, those types of things, so that there's plenty of time for us to process applications prior to the next school year. Okay, so and just know that we work on a rolling basis. There is no actual deadline, so we'll just, as you can get us information, we will take it. So I'm going to switch into my present mode now. So just give me a moment to do that. And I will pull up the PowerPoint. Let's see.
When the PowerPoint is live, it should take up the entirety of your screen. If for some reason that doesn't happen automatically, you can scroll to the center and you'll see a little thumbtack which says pin to screen. So if it's not automatically enlarging, just hit that pin to screen and you'll see that take over Melody's presentation.
Okay. Katie, does it look all set right now? Are you guys seeing the full screen of the presentation?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Perfect. Okay. So welcome. The first thing I'm going to do is to talk about who our students are at Landmark School so that you guys can get a really good sense as to, what our profile is, who we support. I tell parents during these visits that our student profile is a very narrow piece of the pie in terms of their specific learning style, how they learn best. And so to start off, we like to mention that our kids are really bright. Our students are well-adjusted and curious and eager to learn. Our students are motivated, resilient, and capable. So again, our students come to us with a lot of potential cognitively. They're really good big picture thinkers. They have good comprehension, good reasoning ability, but the level of their academic skills are not necessarily commensurate to how bright they are. Our kids come to us wanting to be in an environment where they really can learn. They want to do well and succeed in school. And that being said, we work with a very specific population in terms of their areas of deficit, their areas of need. Our students are diagnosed with what we call a language-based learning disability, which is kind of an umbrella term that can encompass a number of possible specific labels or diagnoses. This can include dyslexia. Probably 60 to 70% of our students at Landmark High School are classically dyslexic in terms of having what we refer to as a phonologically based reading disability. Those are kids that really struggle with the word attack, the decoding, encoding skills for being able to read a word accurately and read fluently. And we also have a number of students that are what we refer to as having double deficit dyslexia. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that term, but that means they struggle not only with the phonological piece, but also with what we call rapid naming, which kind of involves that automaticity of recognition as they're trying to read. A number of our students have what we call a disorder of written language, where they really struggle to organize and get out their thoughts on paper for the writing process. Many of our students will maybe have a lot of great ideas of what they'd like to communicate. But again, that ability to elaborate or to be clear and concise and to just organize what they want to say is a real difficulty to get that down on paper. We have a number of students at our high school that may have what we refer to as an expressive language disorder, where they understand language coming in terms of comprehension, but that word retrieval ability, that ability to orally communicate what they want to say is a difficulty, or again, that ability to elaborate on what they want to say is a difficulty. The executive function piece is really a very common buzzword these days. I think pretty much every neuropsych eval that we see, there's the diagnosis of an executive function disorder, a difficulty with that executive functioning of how to plan and organize and initiate tasks and the time management and all of those things. I think everybody has some relative areas of weakness with some aspects of executive function, but for our students, it's definitely a struggle for them to incorporate the strategies for being able to, plan and organize and study and being able to shift sets from one thing to another. So that's a common difficulty for our students. And then what we see in terms of the working memory and our processing speed is that that's oftentimes weaker than their comprehension and reasoning and big picture thinking. That working memory, that ability to hold on to a lot of information at once that you need to do something with, and the processing speed really tying to how quickly motorically students can output information. So that's really our profile. We're not a school that's equipped to support students who have needs that maybe extend beyond this umbrella of language-based difficulties. So for example, if a student has difficulty with more like emotional behavioral regulation, we're not a therapeutic school, so we would have a hard time supporting those students, or students that need direct social pragmatic skills if they can't, read the room, or they have difficulty interacting with same age peers, because our kids are pretty socially savvy and they do connect well with same age peers. So if a student, for example, has a diagnosis on the spectrum, something like a nonverbal learning disability, or what was prior referred to as Asperger's, we would probably not be the best fit to support that student. So it really is this very narrow profile. And we do ask, in order to ensure that when we accept a student to Landmark, that we are going to be the right fit and that we're setting a student up to make effective progress and to meet with success, we ask for neuropsych testing to be done within 3 years of date of application, or it can be public school psychoeducational testing. We want to see specifically with that testing a WISC, and hopefully many of you have heard of the WISC before. That stands for Wessler Intelligence Scale for Children. If a student is 16 or older, they may have had the WACE, which is just the adult version of that test. And again, to kind of reiterate what I've been talking about, the typical areas of strength for our students that are measured by the WISC are the verbal comprehension, the fluid reasoning, and that visual spatial integration. So again, the reasoning and the visual spatial integration is when you take language away, their ability to kind of problem solve and reason and see how things go together visually to make a whole. We're very visually based in the way we teach here. And so we need to make sure that's an area of strength for our kids. And then again, where they may have more difficulty or where we may see a discrepancy in scores is with that working memory and or processing speed. We also ask for measure of academic achievement testing, so looking at areas of reading, writing, math. And we also ask for some measure of what we call psychosocial adjustment. Those are rating scales like a BASC, which is the Behavior Assessment Scale for Children, or CBCL, Child Behavior Checklist. Those are checklists, again, that parents, students, and teachers often complete just to get a sense of a student's level of social emotional functioning. How are they doing with, levels of anxiety or depression, social skills, attention, things like that. So that's our profile. Hopefully that was clear, and we can talk more about it during the Q&A if you have other questions. In terms of the application, again, we work on a rolling basis, and the application that is available online has a whole checklist of things that we require as you go through the process. Our office keeps in touch with you. We let you know what records we need. We let you know once the application is complete. And then we'll tell you about next steps from there. So what I'd like to do now is shift to talk about what's unique about Landmark, how we are set up to be a language-based program, what that means in terms of how we teach, and kind of go through our day with you. So one of the most important aspects of what makes Landmark, our kind of our hallmark of who we've been since 1971 when we started, is this daily one-to-one tutorial. The tutorial is it's a one-to-one every day for 50 minutes, just like all the other classes during the day. It doesn't happen, before or after school. It happens during the school day as one of the students' classes, 5 days a week. And the goal is to remediate the language and literacy skills. And we work on that through an individualized curriculum that's designed from a diagnostic of goals. So for every student, their tutorial is going to look a little bit different. There are no two tutorials that look exactly the same. What we're focused on, again, in the tutorial is really looking at the reading, spelling, writing, remediation, some study skills, maybe some oral language, maybe vocabulary. But it's not, what we would refer to at public school as like academic support, where a student's getting help with history homework or math homework. That's not the goal of the tutorial. It's its own class with its own set of skills that focus on the literacy. Out of the 300 students that we typically have at Landmark at our high school, usually about 80 or 90 are doing a specific type of tutorial that we refer to as an early literacy tutorial. And these tutorials utilize a lot of the Linda Mood Bell LIPS program, which is a phonetic-based approach towards remediating reading. If you've heard of things like OG, Orton Gillingham, Wilson, these are all phonetic-based approaches. So with the LIPS, and we bring in some Seeing Stars and other things, these students have been identified as having real significant gaps still in their basic word attack and decoding ability. So they will have this early literacy tutorial every day. And for other larger majority of students at the high school who maybe are beyond the phonemic piece and they have some solid decoding but are struggling more with like higher level fluency and writing skills, they would have a more traditional tutorial to focus on those higher level skills. So that's our tutorial. And another thing that's really unique about who we are and what we do is our classroom. So our classroom average size is 6 to 8. We cannot go beyond 8 in the classroom. We are an approved program by the state of Massachusetts. About half of our students are receiving funding from their local districts, either fully funded or they've reached some type of settlement agreement with the family. So we are not allowed to have more than 8 students max in a class. This year is going to be even more unique with COVID-19 and our pandemic out there, where we, are spacing the desks further apart and maybe can only have, 4 or 5 students in the classroom based on the safety standards that we need to meet. So small class sizes. We look to place students in classes by their ability level. We get calls all the time in the admission office asking questions like, is your junior class full? Is your freshman class full? And that's not how we admit students to Landmark. We take students until we're full as a school or until all of our tutorial teaching periods are full. It's not to say that we take 18-year-old seniors and put them with 14-year-old freshmen, but a grade up, grade down, we will, look to see the writing skills, the reading skills, where the memory and processing speed is. We want to make sure that it's a cohesive cohort in each of the academic areas, all of the different subjects of math, science, social studies, English language arts, so that the teacher can really gauge the pace of the class appropriately, and the students can feel like they're really paired up with other kids who are truly working at the same skill level that they are. We do parallel the Mass Curriculum Frameworks. As I mentioned, we're an approved program. So, students are going through typical content that they would at any public school, including their bio and chem and US and world history and algebra and geometry. So they do have all of those typical content classes. It's just that the delivery of instruction is very different with being a language-based program. And I'll talk more about that. All of our classes are taught by teachers who already either have a master's in mild to moderate special education, or they're currently on a waiver with DESE, which is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and they're working towards that and being supervised while they're taking the graduate classes necessary. So about 70% of our high school faculty already have their upper level certification. The other 30% are currently on a waiver working towards that, like I said, enrolled in courses and being supervised. So let's talk about how our approach is different. What makes us a language-based program? What makes us a language-based program is that we are skill-based, that we need to teach direct and explicit skills. So it's less of assigning, for example, go read these 10 pages of your history text and having the student do that independently, and more of the teacher reading to the students in the classroom. But as they're doing that, they're working on study skills. How do you effectively preview relevant vocabulary? How do you take good 2-column notes with main ideas and details? How do you paraphrase information? What are good test-taking strategies? How do you prepare to write a paper? So we're teaching direct and explicit skills that are consistent across all subject areas, across curriculum. We do have 3 distinct programs at our high school. And so what I'd like to do is just take a minute to talk about each one of those. When a family applies to Landmark High School, you're applying to our high school. Our high school is a college preparatory high school as a whole. So again, all of our kids are very bright. They are bound for post-secondary education if that's what they choose to do, and most of them do that. So what program they get placed in really has nothing to do with how bright they are or their cognitive ability. It has more to do with the skill sets that they either have or don't have in place when they get to us. So the first program I want to talk about is called our Founders Program. That's the largest majority of our students that are placed in our traditional Founders Program. What their daily schedule looks like is, and again, these are all 50-minute classes. They happen every day, 5 days a week. If they get a math class first period, that's what they have every day first period. We don't rotate our schedule or anything like that. So they would have a math, science, social studies, and English language arts class, again, 50 minutes each. They would have the one-to-one language-based tutorial that I talked with you about before. And then there's a 6th academic in the day that we decide based on looking at all of the testing and information that we have on a student and our screening that we do, because we do administer a screening battery as we meet with students that we feel like we're going to be likely a good fit for. And that 6th academic might be an extra small group reading fluency class. It might be a study skills or a literature class. Again, Landmark will determine that based on a student's need. And I just want to mention for families, and especially any students that might be listening in tonight, there is room for an elective in your day as well. We want you to be able to take something fun and get a break from the academics in the day. So I will talk about all the extracurriculars soon, I promise. We offer an amazing array of opportunities for the extracurriculars and for kids to pursue their passions. So I will talk about that. So that's our Founders Program. The second program that we have at the high school is called our Expressive Language Program. There's usually about 80 or so students that are designated to go into this kind of component of our high school, this program. The daily class schedule looks very similar to the Founders, with having math, science, social studies, English language arts, and the one-to-one tutorial. The main difference for these kiddos is that they will have a specific class in the day called oral expression, because these students have been identified or diagnosed with having expressive language issues. possibly a receptive expressive language disorder, and they need a daily class to work on those language retrieval and output strategies, vocabulary development, understanding of figurative language and multiple meanings, idioms, how to sequence their ideas when they're communicating. So those students would have that support of an oral expression class. Other than that, their day looks pretty identical to the Founders Program. Our third program is a little bit different from the other two that I've just mentioned, and this is referred to as our prep program. So for the students in our prep, and we usually most years have between 40 to 50 students that are full-time in our prep program. This is designed for the student who comes to us maybe not being classically dyslexic, but having struggles with higher level like essay writing and executive function difficulties, or possibly a student that's been with us for a while and has, gone through the necessary reading remediation, and now that student is pretty much reading at grade level, and they no longer require that one-to-one literacy tutorial. So for these students, the assumption is, or the requirement is, that they are now reading at grade level. They no longer require a one-to-one literacy tutorial. Their decoding, their fluency is solid, and they're ready to handle a bit more in terms of pace, volume, and complexity of work because they have the literacy skills in place. It's also assumed that these students have a good sense of basic paragraph structure and can put together a 3 to 5 paragraph essay. So if you think about a more traditional private prep school, our prep program is mirrored a bit more after that, but still using all of the good multi-sensory language-based instruction, the visual templates, the aids, the graphic organizers, teaching the skills, and really with a big emphasis on the executive function and the higher level essay writing skills. So their classes are listed here: math, science, social studies, grammar and comp is their English class, and then they would have a specific literature class and a study skills class. So those are our programs. So we always want to have enough challenge for students as they go through Landmark, as they make gains. We want to push them along in areas where they excel, but still, give them a level of remediation where they need it as well. Study skills is really embedded in everything that we do here at Landmark. Again, talking about how all of our students, need some support in terms of executive function. So whether they're in, history, science, LA class, they're learning these specific study skills of how to take good 2-column notes, how to preview relevant vocabulary and paraphrase information, and developing good test-taking strategies. And they're consistently learning the 5-step writing process of how to go from a brainstorm to an outline, to a rough draft, to an edit, to a final draft. They're using the same types of templates and graphic organizers across curriculum because we want the students to be able to really internalize these skills to then be able to implement more independently, so that we can start to remove some of that structure as that becomes more automatic for them. Okay. Another thing that's unique about Landmark is the role of the academic advisor. Every student has someone who's overseeing their academic schedule. This is the person who's working really closely with their one-to-one tutorial teacher. They're supervising that class, going in regularly to observe and make adjustments to the goals throughout the year. They would be writing the IEPs for any funded students in their caseload. And it's the main contact person, not only for the student to go to if they have any questions or concerns about their classes, any academic needs, but also the main contact for the parent to get check-ins on, how things are going, any updates that the parent wants, or if there are any, concerns or things popping up during the year, the academic advisor very quickly communicates with the family about that. So that every student at Landmark will have an advisor, and that person stays with them during their years at Landmark. They get to know them very well, and it's a nice relationship that's formed. We have obviously a guidance and transition office. It's a pretty amazing office where the students are very heavily involved, starting early on, as early as 9th grade, with transition planning. And once they hit their junior year, they start to really get that personalized support with weekly meetings, exploring the application process for colleges, figuring out where they want to go, what they want to do, the size of the school they might want to go to, location, level of support they need or they don't need at that point. So it's a wonderful guidance and transition office. All of our students who apply to colleges, we have 100% acceptance. Typically, it's between 94 and 96% of our students that end up attending colleges and universities. Homework. I'll take a minute to talk about that. We do assign homework every night. Homework is about a third of the grade. As we grade students at the high school, we're looking at, tests and quizzes and papers as a third. We're looking at class participation as a third, and the nightly homework completion. The participation is a pretty easy grade to get. It's kind of hard to not participate when there's only 5 or 6 students in a class. No place to hide in the back. So lots of opportunities for a student to be involved. And we do a lot of collaboration and students, working in groups with each other and lots of hands-on. The homework, the goal is always to review and reinforce the skills that have been introduced in class. We want students to feel like that they are independent and successful with their homework. It's very manageable. Typically for the underclassmen in grades 9 and 10, we're usually assigning about an hour and a half of homework a night. Once we get into junior, senior year, for the upperclassmen, we do increase homework a little bit because we want them to really get a sense of, handling and managing a little bit of a heavier load of independent work that they will see at the post-secondary level. So 2 to 3 hours as they go through the grades to get to the upper grades. We do have a homework makeup policy in place for students who may miss an assignment. They would then go after school to homework makeup to get caught up. We do have the academic advisors supervising that and providing support to the students as needed. We really don't want students to get 3 and 4 assignments behind. So that's the homework piece. And so what I'd like to do now is to transition into some of the fun stuff, the after school program and our residential curriculum, what it's like living at Landmark for anyone who's interested in doing that. I mentioned at the very beginning, hopefully everybody heard me or had gotten, had signed on when I said this, but currently our residential program is on pause while we're dealing with this pandemic. We hope that, maybe by second semester, we'll have students returning for the residential program. But typically we will have around 130 students or so of the 300 that live on campus. And we have students from all over the United States and internationally. The focus of residential after school is to really promote the healthy decision-making, self-advocacy, time management, and organizational strategies. And of course, we're doing that for our day students as well. But for the students who live here, they have the benefit of things like structured study hall and those types of things at night. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So as I go through the afternoon and evening, just know if a student is commuting as a day student, we encourage our day students to be here during the after school hours to participate in sports and music, theater, the arts, up in the art building. We have a wood shop, auto shop. I'll talk about all the extracurriculars, but I would say about 95% of our day students stay after school and do activities, and they're welcome to stay through dinner time, and sometimes they're even on campus for study hall at night. So we really want to include them, and we even have day students sometimes that will come and do weekend trips as we run those weekend trips for our residents. So the structure after school, and I just want to see if I need to go to the next slide here. I'll talk about the passions in just a minute, the activities. The structure after school is when school ends at 3:15, the kids go to their afternoon activity. They have dinner. Then they have some free time to hang out with friends on campus. And then we run our structured study hall from 8 to 9:30 at night. Students are at their desks in their room doing their homework. Every house has a house parent and other live-in faculty. It's all of our teachers that teach here during the day. So it's not a separate group, and they really know the students well and are able to support them really well. And we work on something called a level system. So for all new students coming into Landmark, they would start off at level 1. That's more structured. There are more rules. We're trying to get them used to the day-to-day routine. And again, the focus is really around that time management and organization. Every few weeks, as they're meeting those day-to-day expectations, they can request to move up, highest level being level 6. Once they get to those upper levels of 5 and 6, they have a lot more privileges that they have earned. Things like being able to have a fridge and TV in their room, being able to have food delivered to their room, having a later bedtime, being able to shut their door and be on their bed during study hall instead of, at their desk with their door open. All of those things that they can earn, but they need to maintain a certain level of, of expectation around, again, being on time for things, being respectful of staff, getting their homework done to be at those upper levels. So let's talk about all of the fun stuff that we have here at Landmark High School. We have an amazing visual arts department with all kinds of 2D, 3D media art, electives like drawing, painting, printmaking, ceramics, photography. We have an amazing performing arts department with a great theater, drama department. We have music, we have chorus, we have kids doing theater tech and building sets and doing lighting and sound. We have a great athletic program with 3 seasons of JV and varsity sports. In the fall, we offer soccer, cross country, golf, and girls volleyball. In the winter, we have indoor track, and we have basketball, swim team, and wrestling. And then in the spring, we offer tennis, lacrosse, baseball for the boys, softball for the girls, outdoor track, and sailing. So it's a very robust athletic program. We compete with a dozen other private schools in the area. So those are options. We have a working auto shop on campus. We have a woodworking and boat building shop on campus. We have amazing activities and electives through our STEAMworks and technology department. So there is a lot for the kids to do. These are all elective options, and they're also afternoon activity options if a student isn't participating in a sport and they want to be in the auto shop, or they want to be in the art building, or they want to be working out in the weight room. They can, do any of those things after school as well. And we have a wonderful, robust community service program at Landmark High School. The students are usually doing, close to 3,000 or 4,000 hours of community service every year. And there are many, many opportunities for them to get involved. We have service trips that we do over spring break. Students are volunteering to rake elderly's lawns and work at food pantries and daycare centers and doing adopt a highway cleanup. So there's a lot of things for them to get involved with in terms of the community service. We have great weekend trips that we do as well. I mentioned at the beginning, our location is wonderful. We're right on the ocean. We're 30 minutes north of Boston. So we have easy accessibility to all kinds of offerings for weekend trips. And I know I'm running out of time here, so I want to just quickly mention our wonderful summer program that we have. We have students that are both day and boarding. Usually about 50 to 55 students will come to the high school for the summer program. Once a student is entering grades 8 through 12, they can board at the high school for summer, different from the school year where we're grades 9 through 12. What they would do for classes for our summer program is have 4 classes in the earlier part of the day for an hour each. So they would have the English language arts, they will have a math, they will have the one-to-one tutorial, and then either an extra reading class or a study skills class, depending upon what that student needs. Then there's lunch, then there's some study hall that happens in the afternoon after lunch, and then they get to choose from some amazing afternoon activities over the summertime. We have like a sea kayaking program, marine science. There's something for art. There's one for kids who enjoy like working out and doing CrossFit. A lot of our athletes do that for preseason training. So it's a wonderful summer program. A lot of students will use the summer program as a way to transition in if they're going to be new in the fall, especially if they're boarding and living away. It's a great way to get their feet wet and get an introduction to life at Landmark. So I talked a lot really quickly about our programs. I want to have plenty of time for the Q&A and the panel. So let me just thank everybody for listening to that presentation. Let me get out of this, and then you guys can, we can introduce the panel and go from there.
Awesome, thank you, Mel.
Okay.
All right, so I'll be introducing the panelists, but again, feel free to use that chat bar feature to type in any questions. We have 3 administrators on the call and then 3 of our current students. So I'll start with the adults and then I'll let the students introduce themselves. First, Bob Bruto, our headmaster, would you like to greet the families?
Absolutely. Thank you for including me in this, and for all the families, thank you for joining us tonight. Just a brief background. I've been head at Landmark since 1990, and I had the privilege of helping to start the school in 1971. And I say that because there's a reason that somebody stays involved so long. This is such a compelling community of people who will leave no stone unturned to help every student and to meet every student where they are. And that's the nature of our individualized, customized programs. So when kids come to us, they have strengths, they have challenges, and our people find a way to take those strengths and get to those challenges. And to see the kids grow the way they do is what keeps us all together. So it's great to have you. I'll be on for the rest of the night. Happy to answer any questions at all. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thanks, Bob. Rob Genatelli, Dean of Students, can you say hello?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome aboard. It's good to have you all here. Kind of echo Bob's statements of environment. July 1, I started my 25th year as the Dean of Students here at the high school, and feel as strong and as positive about the environment as the first day I stepped onto campus. I promised my wife when I took this job that we'd be here 3, maybe 4 years tops, which she reminds me of on a fairly regular basis 25 years later, living on campus, raising our family here as well. It's a wonderful community.
Thank you, Rob. And John Fierick, our academic dean.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm actually reminded, as Rob just introduced himself, that he called me in the summer of 1996 to see if I wanted to come for an interview at Landmark School. I thought it would be a few years as well, but here we are. So I've had a fantastic educational voyage of my own, working in our residential program, working as a public school liaison, and most recently as one of our academic deans at the high school. So I'm excited to be here. We welcomed our faculty to campus today in full. So there's a lot of energy that we're feeling right now. So happy to be here, and looking forward to hearing from you guys tonight.
Thank you, John. So we've got 3 students on the call tonight, and their school year doesn't start until Monday. Orientation starts next week, so it's really great that they're willing to give up one of their final summer evenings to be with us. All 3 E-names, I just realized. We've got Ethan, Eric, and Ellie. So guys, just as if we were in person in our Drake conference room, if you could introduce yourself, your name, where you're from, your grade, how long you've been at Landmark, and then something you do on your campus. And I'll prompt you because that's a lot of things to try to remember. Ethan, do you want to start out?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Ethan. I'm going to be a senior this year. See if I can remember all of them. I'm from Acton, Mass. And what was the other one, Mr. Chu?
What do you do on campus, Ethan? What do you not do, actually, in your case?
I do a few different things. International club, student council, debate, and wrestling, just to name a few things.
Perfect. Thank you, Ethan. And Ethan came from Carroll School. Sometimes we have families on the call that have come from that. So thank you, Ethan. And again, think of questions for these students. Good experience. Ellie, how about you?
Hi, my name is Ellie. I'm going to be a senior. I'm from Needham. I've been at Landmark for 4 years, and I also came from Carroll.
And what are some of the things that you do on campus, Ellie?
I played volleyball, but that's about it.
And you dance. You did a great job.
Yes.
Yeah. Dance program.
Got it.
Thanks, Ellie. I'm glad you came tonight. Eric, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, Eric. I'm Eric. I came sophomore year. I'm now going into junior year. I play soccer, basketball, and I'm from Vermont.
Eric, where did you spend your summer?
I spent most of my summer over in Germany since my dad's from there.
Glad you're here. Thanks, Eric. And Eric and Ethan are residents, so lived on campus. Ellie was planning to be a resident this year, but will now continue as a day student, as will the other students. So I'll look at the chat. One of the first questions we've got was around the art department and arts in general at Landmark. So I'll turn it over to the students first if you want to share any of your personal experiences with the arts at Landmark.
Are you guys I don't know if you're referring to like either visual arts or performing arts. I've been a part of the performing arts, and they do a really good job with set design and with the plays and with chorus, or both. And I'm not talented at all in visual arts, but they do a really good job. Most years we have, I think at the end, called Fathoms, which is they have all the students' art programs, whether it's woodworking, painting, sculptures, or even sometimes technical, or even writing too. They have this big event where students talk about their arts, and they have the art gallery, and it's beautiful. I'm always blown away by the art. Actually, I think we've even had a few kids that like win certain prizes from like national awards. So they've really good. So both of them are really, really good with that. I hope that answered some of the questions.
Thanks, Ethan. Ellie or Eric, anything to add? Have you taken an art class, either one of you? No. Fair enough. Administrators, anything you think they've missed?
I'll just add that visual and performing arts are a big part of the high school campus, and it's amazing the way the kids learn to express themselves and develop confidence and self-advocacy in those departments. Visual art department is always among the top leaders in Boston Globe art competition. And they just do an amazing job of helping kids grow. And performing arts, kids who've never done any performing arts before end up singing and dancing and doing very sophisticated plays at the end of the year, building sets, doing sound. So it's just amazing to see kids who haven't done things become superstars in those arenas, and seeing the teachers guide them into that. It's pretty wonderful.
Great. So I'm just looking at some of the other questions coming in that I think are a little bit more admissions speak. Mel, I'll let you get to the last one about our testing requirements. And while she's answering that, think of questions for the students. They're great ambassadors.
Sure, I'll run over that. So when a family applies to Landmark, we do require testing within 3 years of date of application, whether it's a private neuropsych eval or public school psychoeducational testing. We look specifically to have the WISC information. The WISC is the cognitive measure that looks at some of those areas I talked about at the beginning of the slideshow presentation. Hopefully folks were here for that. Maybe some people came in late. But that's where we look to see that a student has strengths in that big picture thinking and reasoning and comprehension, as I talked about. And typically for our students, it may be that they struggle a bit more with the working memory or processing. So we ask for the WISC, we ask for some measure of academic achievement testing, and we ask for some measure of what we call psychosocial adjustment, something that looks at students' functioning around their levels of, anxiety and attention and social skills, things like that. So that's the testing piece that we require. And we certainly can discuss that more with families on an individual basis if there are more questions and they need to call our office about that. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that was great. A lot of questions rolling in. Here's a good one for the students. Asking about how students feel about Landmark's smaller classes and the pros and cons. Eric, you jumped out at me as a student who might be well-versed to answer this question, knowing that you started 9th grade in a larger public school setting in Vermont and then joined us at Landmark. What are your thoughts on the differences from the classroom?
I like it a lot more because it's more geared towards you as a learner. So you learn better and you also learn easier. It's easier to pick up concepts and actually understand them. Whereas in a larger class, the teacher might be, oh, the majority of the class gets it, let's move on. Whereas at Landmark, it's more like every student understands it, let's keep going. And those that might be a little bit ahead might be a little bit more challenged by the teacher, but normally they have classes so that everyone's around your skill level in your subject that you're doing. And I enjoyed small classes because you also bond with the students in your class very well. And there still is like jokesters that will make funny comments in middle classes and that stuff. So it's still fun.
Eric, that was a great answer. Thank you. Ethan or Ellie, can you think of any downsides, anything you don't like about our small class size? Ellie?
I would say a downside is you can't really hide. I know a lot of people don't like this at the beginning, but if you're just sitting, you're not going to sit in the back of the class and have no idea what's going on because someone's going to notice. It's good for yourself. I know at the beginning it's a little like, oh, I can't hide. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but it ends up being a good thing. So it's an adjustment. But
that's great.
Yeah, I definitely. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ethan.
I was going to say, like, Ellie's totally right, especially if you forget your homework or like miss a project, your teachers will know very quickly by the time. And you can like see like the kids sitting and the teachers making their way across, just getting more nervous, and then they talk to you, but they're typically really good about adjusting your homework levels and whatnot. But yeah, for better or for worse, you get your work done.
Great. Our two seniors on the call, this is a great question for you guys. How, in terms of your confidence going into college, thinking about where your skills were when you joined us in 9th grade and where they are now, can you speak to how prepared you're feeling or not prepared? Either way.
I think I'm really prepared to go to college. I didn't really have a lot of these skills when I first came, even though I did come from a very similar school. I feel like I've really built a lot more on top of what I already had. And I have not lived at Landmark, but I've also slept over in the dorms a lot. So I feel like that also really helped. But I think I'm very prepared for college.
Ellie, before Ethan answers, there was another question about how day students interact with residents. So do you feel like, what do you think the dynamic is? As a day student, do you feel like you were able to integrate with campus?
Yeah, I feel like you can agree and like hang out with anyone. I mean, a lot of my friends lived at school last year, so I would just like stay after and hang out with them a lot. So I feel like the day students and the residents are both pretty meshed together in classes too. So even if you don't know the person, even if you're a day student and you have a class with this resident, you can always just stay after school and hang out with them usually.
Did you ever spend a night, Ellie?
Yeah, I slept over every Thursday night for 3 months.
Okay. That
so I've spent some time here.
Great. Ethan, back to you on college readiness. What are your thoughts?
So I've been boarding since 9th grade. So this might be my first year commuting, and it definitely prepares you for what college is going to be like, because you have to learn to like live with the person, which is surprisingly a lot harder than a lot of people think. Especially when you're like, you might have difference in either opinions or whatnot, but it's really good to learn that. Also, for academics wise, Landmark does a good job teaching you to like, they'll build your skills. Like I came from Carroll, and I learned a lot of skills from there, but Landmark taught me a lot of skills and then adding on to that is the advocacy part. And that is definitely something that's really, really helpful going to college, because it's like they kind of tell you that when you're in college, it's going to be you that's going to be your advocate, not, not the school, not the parents. It's going to be you. And that, I think, is a very big thing that Landmark has helped you with. It's like there will be support, but you have to go find it. And that's what I think they do a good job in teaching you that.
Great. Rob, this question is for you, Rob Gianatelli. The question was, do students have to participate in after-school activities?
The answer is both yes and no. So the residential base has a level system, level 1 through 6. And students who are level 1 through 4, after-school activities, sports or activities are mandatory in those level groupings. Individuals who have earned the privilege of levels 5 or 6 can opt out of after-school activities if they choose to. Although the ironic part is most of those students participate so fully in the program, getting up to level 5 and 6, that they're integrated and want to be busy and want to be involved. And then for our commuting students, the truth is we couldn't operate our sports program or our performing arts program or even our arts program without them being here with us. So in a traditional year, when we're open fully residential and we're staffed and we're ready to go, the beautiful part is, like, Landmark doesn't close traditionally, right? So if you're a commuting student and you're here and you're doing sports or activities and you're here at dinner time, you eat dinner. If you're here after dinner, you're here after dinner. If you're here later than that for some reason, we'll assign you and affiliate you with a dorm, so you're just involved. And if you're here even longer than that, then we're going to park you into study hall somewhere and just wait for someone to come get you. And in those times that someone doesn't come get you, we'll just assign you a place to sleep and we'll just keep you. We don't close. So yes, the after-school activities program is open for all and very encouraged.
Thank you, Mr. G. Eric, there was a question about students coming in as 10th graders, which is something you did. Were you the only new student last year?
No, I was most definitely not the only new 10th grade student. There were even students that came in senior year or junior year last year. But I came in, and it's not that uncommon for people to come in later on, so not just freshman year, I would say. My roommate came in sophomore year, and 2 of my other good friends also came in sophomore year. So it was also nice kind of coming in afterwards, because I felt like you could look to other people that were in your classes and stuff for guidance on, like, oh, where do I need to go to my next class on the first day? Because I had no idea. Or, like, what's the schedule like after school? So that you can just ask the person sitting right next to you in a class what to do next. And I felt that was pretty helpful overall. And it's definitely not that uncommon for 10th graders, especially, to be accepted and come to school and have a great time.
I remember, Eric, you were like a month into school and you came down and you're like, so I think I'm ready to be a tour guide. You've been doing great since. It's like you integrated pretty quickly into our community. Glad you're here. Ellie, how's the food?
I would say it's definitely gotten better over the years. We have it's better than public school food. I would say it's that it kind of reminds me of college food. It's it's not public school food where it's not good at all, but it's definitely not your parents' food. It's somewhere in the middle. It's it's good. It's very repetitive, but other than that, it's good.
Ethan, what do you want to add?
The one thing I will say, that the food has definitely gotten a lot better since freshman year, and the kitchen does a really good job with taking in suggestions. So if everyone's like, I hate this thing that they're making, they will either get rid of it or change it, or they'll do something. They do a really good job with what is eating a lot of chicken. That was one thing that did happen, and they did switch it. So they're really good about that.
Great, good answers. So another question about students starting kind of in new students transitioning in. Have you guys encountered a student join your class mid-year, and how was that? Yep, Ellie.
I've had plenty of kids join my class middle of the year, and it's completely fine. I know the first couple of days are a little rough, but after that you make your friends, and your class, it's not weird. It's kind of expected that someone will join your class in the middle of the year.
Great. Great. Not weird. Good. I like that answer. Let's see. I'm trying to keep jumping around, but I'm trying to get to ones that are really student driven so that we can let these guys get back to their summer Wednesday night. I guess maybe, John Furyk, a question for you in terms of thinking about twice exceptional students. And there was another question about how we ensure that students are, if they're quiet and hardworking, how are we pulling them out? Either of those, I think you'd be great to speak to.
Sure, sure. I think I might be looking at least one quiet but hardworking student. I remember, actually, if I can tell the story, Ellie, I remember your first IEP meeting as a freshman. You gotta laugh. We laugh about this a lot, and I think the difference between your first meeting and then just two mere years later, where you were such a great advocate for yourself and engaging in your own team meeting, I thought the evolution there and the development of your advocacy was huge. And I think part of that is, you know, to Ellie's own words, she said that you really can't hide. You know, there's kind of a forced audience there where, you know, we're really kind of in some ways forcing you guys to develop those skills to come meet us halfway. And I think that, you know, that is one kind of really important piece that is very valuable with regard to the small groups. You know, from the teaching side of things, we heard the kids talk about that. But from the teaching side of things as well, we can really give that individualized attention and make sure that we are interacting within that small group on an individualized basis as well. I think that, you know, several educators from outside of Landmark have told me, they say, gee, you know, when I sent a student there 4 years ago, the one thing I always see 4 years later when they're ready to graduate, that they've come into their own, they've developed confidence, they've developed a sense of themselves as learners. And so, you know, that's just from an outside perspective and someone that I see once a year. So I think, you know, the individualized attention is really huge in terms of that kind of development. With regard to the you know, kind of the gifted LD profile, I think I would answer in a similar way. I think because we have the ability to individualize and the ability to not only provide the one-to-one, but individualize within the small groups, we know and recognize that our students come with some significant strengths, but also with some significant areas that they need to work on. So I think when we do individualize our instruction for our students, we're really able to identify what those gaps are and also to leverage their strengths against those weaknesses so that we're paying attention to the full student.
Thank you, John. So I'm trying to stick with 8, so I'm again still trying to prioritize these student voices. And again, if we don't get to your chat question, Melanie and I are happy to follow up with you individually. But rapid fire students, anyone know which athletic league we play in?
The knapsack, I think. Knapsack?
EIL,
like the
right?
girls.
It's the EIL for boys, or at least for wrestling does. Is that right, Mr. G?
The Independent League is for the boys. That is correct.
Yes.
Okay.
How about for the girls? You remember the league that the girls are in?
I thought it was knapsack, but maybe it's not.
Isn't it the
Oh, no, this is the IGC.
IGC, there you go.
If you do really well in IGC, then you can participate in NEPSAC, I believe.
Correct.
Right.
Great.
So
okay.
I just want to say, some of the parents may not know, EIL is Beaver Country Day, Concord Academy, Pingree, Berwick, Portsmouth Abbey, and the Girls League. We're playing against Windsor and Dana Hall. So it's really traditional schools. It's competitive. It's at our level, and it works out really well. All the schools work really well together.
Great. Students, favorite electives? Rapid fire. Ethan, your favorite elective?
That's hard. American Sign Language is a lot of fun. Debates, really fun. International Club's fantastic. And Student Council. Anything is just a lot of fun. You will have fun in anything. I'm in half of them, and they are a lot of fun.
Ellie, what's your favorite elective?
Oh, I've only taken dance, so dance, I guess.
Ellie, there's another question. Are there school trips?
Yes. So when I was a sophomore, we went on a science trip to the Science Museum. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, but we did that. But a lot of times for Saturday schools, if you don't have a mandatory, you'll go on a trip. Like my friends have gone to the aquarium, they've gone apple picking. I've done like cooking at school once. like we find ways to do things that aren't at school.
Ellie, you're missing one pretty significant trip that I was on, Ethan was on.
Oh, the DC trip.
Yep, we went to DC together. Yeah, there are definitely trips. We're moving around. Eric, favorite elective, and then also weekend trips. Where are you going on your weekends?
I only did gym because I was here 1 year. SOT, that's sometimes also study skills, but that's a great class. And then weekend trips, was that it?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them that people do, and it's super open. So you can be like, hey, can we go to the movies? Or, hey, can we go to Target to get some stuff we might need? Or, hey, can we go to the beach? Or pretty much whatever. And if you're ever on a weekend where there's like less kids, you might do like more, I'm going to call them like special trips. So we went like paintballing one weekend when there was like 3 kids, and like some other stuff that might be a little bit farther away from campus. But normally it's pretty open-ended. You go to the student life office with your group of friends, or someone else might have already gone there, and then they'll put a sign-up sheet up on the billboard and like, hey, who wants to go see this movie tonight?
Great. Thanks, guys. Okay, this is a good one. So this is a thoughtful question. Students, do you consider Landmark to be a place that values diversity? Who wants to start? Ethan.
Yes, I think Landmark does a really good job. We have a really good GSA and International Club. We do a lot of work with them, and independently we do different things. Like we had a panel for talking about different diversity and ethnicity and identity and what kind of that makes up. I think Landmark does a good job showcasing people's different cultural or ethnic backgrounds, whether, you know, it's in International Club, we do things like if for certain holidays, we'll celebrate them certain days. Like I did a presentation on the Day of the Dead. Mr. Electives, who's one that runs it, we do she does like a Greek holiday celebration during actually New Year's celebration. So it's after winter break. And like each year we'll have kids do different things. So they do a really good job with kind of showcasing kids' diversity.
Great. So students, it's about 8 o'clock. I figured I can let you go. Maybe the administrators, I'll ask you guys to stay on 5 more minutes and we'll see if there's any other burning questions. But students, as always, it's so nice to see you, and I really appreciate you giving up your time, and hope to see you again.
As do I. Thank you guys so much for joining in tonight. We really appreciate it, and it's so nice to see your faces. Hopefully get to see them in person soon.
All right. I know we missed a couple in the chat. If there were more specific questions, I figured it might be easier for Melanie and I to follow up with you individually. But if you have any specific questions for the administrators on the call, feel free to chat them in. But again, we're just so appreciative of everyone's time and consideration of Landmark School. Ooh, good question. Will we be offering campus tours? We hope to, yes. Right now we have a great 11-minute virtual tour that is student-led. So we will include the link to that, so please see that. Eventually, yes, we will, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, we want to bring people back on campus as soon as it's safe to do so, but I think our #1 priority is Monday, welcoming the new students onto campus and getting back into a new routine where we can safely welcome visitors. Sorry for my deer in the headlights look.
I could just add on to that quickly too, to say, of course we can, once it's safe, set up visits, individual appointments. Typically what we do as part of the admission process is have a family, submit all of the application materials, give us an opportunity to look over everything, determine if it looks likely that we're going to be a good fit. And then at that point is when we set up an individual appointment where we will have a family come and bring the family and the student on a tour And that's when we usually meet with the student as well to do an interview process and everything. So that is part of our admission process. But we do like to typically get, application materials in first and get a sense of whether we're going to be a good fit to support a student appropriately.
There were a couple other admission-specific questions. One from Eva about how many ninth graders. Because as Melody explained, our classes are grouped not necessarily based on grade, but based on skill. We don't have caps for our grades. So ninth grade can look different year to year. So when we're looking at a student, we're just judging them based on the profile against the landmark student profile to make those kinds of choices. SSAT, I think I saw a question on that. That's definitely not a requirement, but we certainly do interviews. During this COVID pandemic, we've been doing them virtually. Again, as Melody said, if we can get back to safely doing screenings and interviews on campus, then we would do that. There was a question about EMS transition. There will be a transition night. Rob, did you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. So we do a full transition program with the EMS. So the EMS students, the 8th graders, come over to the high school campus a half a dozen or so times through the spring semester. We do activities on campus with them. We do tours. We have them intermingle with other EMS families and students who have come over. They do a scavenger hunt. They meet advisors. They meet the athletic director, performing arts director. They go around and meet all the elective teachers. Then our peer advisors go over to the elementary, middle school to talk directly with them, kind of one-on-one without adults there. So I honestly believe that when we're looking at creating a transition model for 8th graders to come to the high school, it is significantly more robust than most 9th graders have entering into any other high school. So we really want to make sure that they have spent time here on the campus, that they know all the counterparts at the high school that they're accustomed to looking for and searching out at EMS. So we really spent a lot of time getting them prepared to be here at the high school.
And if I could just jump in, Katie, and add, we will have at the beginning of October, probably it will be virtual. We'll have a parent night for all of our current 8th grade parents to give more information. As Rob just mentioned, a lot of the information we talk about, but we'll have that going on, and there is a transition application that the 8th grade parents will receive as well.
The acronym EMS for that's elementary, middle school. Landmark has 2nd grade through 8th, down about 5 minutes down the road from the high school campus. Kathleen, you had a question about the colleges that our students are accepted to. I'm happy that is on our website, but I'll send you the link to that so you can see. I can check with guidance about more detailed in terms of scattergrams, what we might have available, but I'm happy to get you some more information on that. I'm worried I might have missed some. I'll look through, and Melody and I will follow up. But again, please reach out to us directly as you sit on this and think about it more. This will be emailed to you, the recording, so you'll have that to access.
Katie, I saw one of the questions, I don't know if John already answered it, but it asked about the highest level math class that we offer. I don't know if he wanted to chime in about how high our math curriculum can go.
Sure, it can go as high as calculus. So, more typically in a typical year, advanced algebra and pre-calculus every year, depending on the student needs and population and students that are ready for calculus, we've had calculus in those particular cases. Again, it depends on the student, whether that's an AB or a BC calculus. And in general, no, AP curriculum is not part of our curriculum.
Thank you.
Really good questions tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being so awake on a gloomy evening. Mel, I'll turn it back over to you to wrap up.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we really appreciate everybody's time tonight and joining us and hearing more about our school and our program and all the amazing things going on here at Landmark. Our kids are, again, as our administrators mentioned, we've all been here a long time, and it's because it never grows old seeing these students come to us, a lot of them from previous school experiences that may have not been very positive, and just really transform during their time here, gain in their, not only their academic skills in terms of being able to read and write and all of those skills, but just in their confidence levels and their ability to understand themselves as learners and self-advocate for their needs, and just go off and do wonderful things and be so successful in their future. So that's why we've all been here for so long. And again, we really appreciate you joining us and to get more information. And as Katie mentioned, we're happy to answer more individualized questions as you go through the admission process. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. So, and we appreciate the administrators taking the time to be here tonight too. Thank you.
All right. Well, good night, everyone. We'll get this recording over to you soon.
Good night.
Thank you so much.